It's Tuesday after a long Memorial Day weekend, and sunshine and burgers and steaks, and I smoked a pork butt. But we are here on the best damn pond to land. It's summer, officially summer, for at least my kids. Finally, their last day was Friday. So, Dan, how about you? Feeling summer? Feeling summery?
Yeah, I think this weekend, really kicked it off. We had phenomenal weather. Got a little rainy on Sunday, maybe,
Mm.
but got some good pool time. Mila seems to like the pool a lot more than she does, or she did last year as a 1 year old. So got some good sun. Did a little bit of barbecuing and just kind of chilled and relaxed. So
Mm.
yeah, Avery finished school last Thursday. We are in full summer mode.
Awesome. Yeah, that's good. I mean, summer only means one thing to me, and that's that we're closer to fall. So,
That's right.
I that and mulch. I spread 4 trailer loads of mulch. So, well, that's a story for another day. But anyways, yeah, we started a little thing last week called Most Delusional Fan Bases, and I feel like I kind of want to expand on this just because we've gotten some heat from it, man. And so I told you guys we would do a winners bracket. So the winners from last week, if you're wondering, Miami beat Notre Dame, Michigan beat Tennessee, and Oregon over A&M. So in the winners bracket this week, we're going to go Miami and Michigan. Dan, most delusional fan base, Miami or Michigan?
This is a tough one,
It
but
is, isn't it?
and I don't want to feel like I'm piling on. It's obviously recency bias, but just it's Michigan. It's
Okay.
hands down Michigan. I can't tell you how many accounts there are on Twitter that started in like 2021.
Right.
It's like their fan base is oblivious to the fact that prior to these, 3 straight wins,
Yeah.
they
Wins.
were 15-1 against us. And you've got guys calling us little brother and all this other nonsense. You got Connor, you got the Connor manifesto. Juck did a nice piece on that this morning. It made me think about, he's sitting there working on it, and he's probably like, it wasn't a manifesto, it was a mission statement. He's like Jerry Maguire,
Yeah.
and just they're just delusional,
Yeah.
and the number, I don't know if they just didn't pay attention last year to the communication that came out from the NCAA and the Big Ten, and
They just pushed it aside, man.
and I mean, I don't know how many times I've indisputable and known evidence, like, and it's always matched with there's no evidence. It's just they're absolutely delusional. They're in denial as to what's coming down the pipe. They're in denial as to what happened. I had one guy say that Chris Olave and Garrett Wilson never did anything against them in a game. Or never beat them.
Oh, okay.
Not only did they beat them, Ryan had a 29-point victory as a rookie head coach in his first game the year before they ducked us. And, Olave had a punt return for a touchdown, another receiving touchdown. Garrett Wilson had a receiving touchdown. It's like they're oblivious to the history, specifically the recent history.
And Olave had 2 touchdowns as a freshman.
Yeah, true freshman.
He was, I mean, I think the first passing touchdown with Dwayne Haskins was on the right sideline in the corner of the end zone on a post route to Olave. He just went up and got it. And because I remember Terry McLaurin pointing at him like this.
Yeah. And then when, for those that do acknowledge, what was happening the last 20 years, they just want to bypass it and go back to what happened before that, which, I mean, and then they want to go all the way back to the 1800s to when, they've got a victory in their total victory count that was actually a tie, and they just declared themselves a winner because, the other team had to get on the bus and go home to meet a curfew or something. Like, just delusional.
Well, some of their wins were against like the School of the Blind and Deaf, and then like a high school, and there's some interesting, funny ones in there. I mean, I'm sure that Ohio State played some interesting teams too. I didn't go back and look at anything pre World War One, but yeah, I get you. So I'm with you on that. I think the recency stuff, especially, like it's frustrating to me to feel like, as an Ohio, and I'm a Ohio State fan, obviously, but I feel like Ohio State has been dominant for a very long period of time, since 2001. We'll start there, and not just against Michigan, but in general. I mean, the Luke Fickell year was hard. Like, that was a hard year. Tressel's first year, wasn't lights out, but overall, like, we're spoiled. We have 10-win seasons, and we get mad when we win 10. We want to win 15. And I feel like I watched a lot of how bad Michigan was under Rich Rodriguez and under Brady Hoke, and it's almost like, and maybe some, and I feel like old man River here, but I wonder, maybe some of these kids that are in college now, man, they were probably like 7 when Brady Hoke was the coach, so probably to them this is history, and so I don't know. I'm really not. I'm just kind of rambling now, but it's frustrating to me that we were really good. We've been really good for a really long time, and they have.
Yeah, we have never been irrelevant. Like, we can literally say that in modern history, Ohio State has never been irrelevant. We've never had even a 5-year, let alone a 3 or 4 year stretch where we were just, awful and had to rebuild and, went through a couple coaches. Like, it hasn't happened.
Right.
We had the 1 year with Fickell, like you just mentioned, that was an aberration, and it was an interim year, on the heels of what happened with Tressel.
Yeah.
But, it's interesting. TMT Jr. on one of our chats, he mentioned, like, here's perspective, right? Since the turn of the century, 2000 through the 2023 seasons, Michigan lost 3 games or more 19 times and only lost 2 or fewer 5 times. So a 9-3 season or worse has been about 4 times more likely than a 2 or fewer loss season. They're delusional. The last 3 years have been an aberration, not the norm.
Yep. That's baffling to me too. I don't get it, but whatever. That's fandom, man. Fan is short for fanatic. So I always tell people that, like, we all have our things, we all have our reasons, but yeah, it's Ohio State definitely never not relevant. And I still remember, and I remember this to this day, on Twitter in 2021, Michigan State had beat Michigan, and Ohio State absolutely throttled Michigan State the week before playing Michigan. And there was all these big conspiracies. Oh, the Death Star's back. Here we go again. Another loss, and they were all in their feelings about it before the game. I should have screenshot all these people that were watching the Ohio State Michigan State game as Michigan fans, because they were saying that, oh, the head ref is married to an alumnus from Ohio State before the game even started. Like, there were excuses before the game even started. And it was this, and one of the refs in that game was part of the JT first down. Like, he was the one that called it a first down. And when everybody thought he was, from Michigan, said he was short, but he wasn't. So yeah, I mean, before that even happened, they were claiming they were already owning the loss, and so that tells you everything you need to know. So all right,
so some guy on Instagram replied to me about he's like JT was short, and I'm just like, and Rudy was offsides, but they still made a movie about him. You know, like
I mean, what year was that? Jiminy Christmas. Are we like, is that like 10 years ago yet? Like, can we let it go? I mean,
well, first of all, he wasn't short. All video
no, he
evidence.
wasn't short.
I mean, from every angle, there's, yeah. I'm the man. Yes, delusional.
Delusional.
I mean, we can just. I know that you know they're going to advance to be against Oregon in probably next Tuesday's episode.
Yep.
But yeah. But anyways, hey, real quick.
That's a good segue.
Yeah, that's a good segue. I wanna let you guys know what's going on. So Friday we have got Andre, aka the chef from Cocaine Willie. He's a Kansas State podcast. Him and two other guys are on there, and I think he showed up on a couple of Ohio State podcasts so far, talking specifically about Will Howard and his history at Kansas State. And you know, I don't want to give too much away. I'm the more I dig into things, I'm wondering. There he is, Cocaine Willie.
Yeah,
check those guys out.
I'll tag
YouTube.
them in the post.
Yeah. But you know, he'll be joining us on Friday, and we're going to go deep into, you know, Will. I have not watched the podcast that he's been on talking about this. I'm not going to
Purposefully.
I have no idea what he's going to say about Will. I don't know if he's a fan of Will. I don't know if he's a critic of Will. I feel like we might be getting catfished a little bit, and that'll be the premise of the show. But yeah, we're looking forward to that on Friday.
Yeah, I'm excited. So Dan made contact with them, and they were more than happy to come on some Ohio State podcasts and talk about Big Willie. So
yeah, Chef actually lives in Ohio. I'm going to dig into that more on Friday, but I don't know what that's about. Rooting for K-State, but we'll figure it out.
You know, I had a. I mean, when Kansas State, you know, they had some decent teams in the early 2000s and stuff that
Bill Snyder put together some squads.
Bill Snyder, man, that guy could coach some football. Gosh, he retired and then unretired to help the program again. You know, so yeah, that man could coach. I have a lot of respect for Bill Snyder, and I can remember, gosh, when was it? It might have been the Luke Fickell year. I was like, well, maybe we should look at Bill Snyder, and then they brought in Herbs. So
yeah,
the rest is history. I almost named my son Urban. So for the losers bracket, we have for our most like delusional fan base series, Notre Dame lost to Miami. So in the Catholics versus convicts again. And then Tennessee lost to that team up north. So Notre Dame or Tennessee, Dan? I know you live in Tennessee. I know you hear all about the SEC. So, and I live, you know, like 3 hours from Notre Dame lore. So,
yeah, you know, Juck actually went into this on his show this morning, and he was all over Tennessee being delusional. I got to be honest, having been here 5 years, I don't see that. Like, it's almost shocking. I mean, don't get me wrong. You know, there's Vol Nation flags. There's, you know, orange flags with the white tee. I mean, they're all over the place. But it's not, and maybe it's because Nashville's become a little bit more transient in recent years.
It really is.
You know, it's not like it was in Atlanta with UGA fans when I lived there for 14 years.
Okay.
So I at this point, I think we go back to Notre Dame.
Okay.
In my opinion.
All right.
I think Notre Dame's a little bit more delusional. I think they live in the past way more. Now, you can argue that Tennessee doesn't really have a past. You know, at least Notre Dame does have a history of winning national championships. Tennessee really doesn't. You know, you know, I think if you ask a lot of Vols fans, they might say that Peyton Manning won two Heismans and a national championship just because they're in denial. But I still think, you know what? I just talked myself into it. It's Tennessee at the wire.
Yeah.
Tennessee is more delusional than Notre Dame.
Okay. Well, I was, so this is, I'm going to use your two SEC foes, Georgia and Tennessee. So I agree with you. I think Notre Dame, I'm going to go Notre Dame here just because now I will say I'm also friends with, like, really good friends with a Notre Dame fan. Like, his Notre Dame is like our Ohio State to him. He grew up over there, like he's from there. I get it. But when we were having conversations the last 2 years before Ohio State played Notre Dame, he was really um, had a really good perspective. So he was like, "Look, you guys are Ohio State for a reason." He said, "You're in the title contention every year for a reason." And this was the Tyler Buckner year, and we were in Florida and we were on vacation. We were just talking. He goes, "Hey, if we keep it within 10 points, I'm going to be happy because I've watched that offense. I know what Ryan Day can do, and we just don't have the elite speed on the
Yeah.
outside, like you guys do. And I accept that. I know where we are." And he more or less said the same thing last year. Hey, it might be a little closer this year, especially given that they brought in Sam Hartman. But he said, "I don't know." Other than he said, "We lost the running threat of the quarterback that Buckner had to try and bring in, a passing quarterback. So I don't know that we have the elite wide receivers for that to even matter. So, especially against Denzel Burke and Davison Igbinosun. So with you 100% on that. But have you? I'm not a country music fan, so I will state that readily. But I like Chris Stapleton, and I have a Chris Stapleton mix on my Spotify podcast, and I promise this all connects. And there is a song called Tennessee Orange. And basically, this girl is from Georgia and meets a Tennessee fan and goes to the Tennessee game. And she doesn't want her dad to know because, like she said, goes on to say, "I still want the dogs to win, but I wore Tennessee orange for him." And so it was basically like about a college football rivalry. And I thought, man, like that's about the most SEC thing I've ever heard if we're writing songs about it. So
Yeah, no, they're out there, man. Yeah, we are in the home of country music, and
yep.
there's more than one or two songs about the Tennessee Vols. So
Oh, I'm
for
sure. I'm
sure.
sure.
Now, listen, we brought up Georgia in my time down in Atlanta, and I'll tell you what, man. If there's there's not a better example of how quickly this can change, right? I mean,
Oh
I would
no.
say,
Yeah.
up until you know a few years prior to them winning their first natty a couple years ago, Georgia would be right at the top of the list of delusional fan bases, right?
Oh, for sure. Till Kirby got it together. Yeah.
I mean, they hadn't won a title since 1980, and they acted like they were the best, all the way around. The fact they've won a couple now just makes it that more, nauseating to deal with. Um, my daughter roots for UGA. She was born there. Her mother's family are all UGA fans, so I get it. We named our damn dog Georgia. Um, but no, yeah, they're definitely a delusional group,
I
or they
gotcha.
were.
Yeah.
They definitely were. On cue, there's Georgia right
Yeah,
there.
I saw her coming up in the background. Yeah. So okay. So we didn't have this in our like discussion, but I because we're talking about the South, and I remembered this, and I was going to add it, and I was like, I don't know if I really want to talk about it, but because we shifted to Friday for our Will Howard conversation, Dabo Swinney says he will quit college football if players get paid. He may quit college football if players get paid, courtesy of NBC Sports. And someone we like on our show, Buckeye G, tweeted that he doesn't think Dabo will ever be fired because he's such a good coach, but he will step down of his own volition because of all the nonsense with collegiate athletics. So, I want to get your take on that. I'm struggling because I remember in college, I think we were like you were only permitted during that era. I'll say like late '90s through early 2000s. And Dan, you can chime in. You're just a smidge older, but I think you could only work 7 hours a week for like extra money if you had any kind of scholarship at all. Um, and there was just a lot of scraping by, and I'll stay away from student loans, but there was a lot of scraping by, and now I feel like it's gone completely the other way. And while I think that Marvin Harrison Jr. should get paid for every jersey that gets sold out of the team shop, like some portion of it, yeah, absolutely. Name, image, and likeness. You're making money off of me. I want a piece of it. Um, but are you with Dabo on this? Like, what do you think?
Well, first of all, I think he said that in 2019.
Okay.
So it was well before NIL became a thing, and we're
Mm,
now a few years into NIL, and Dabo hasn't stepped down or quit football. So I think Dabo's full of it. I think
okay.
he's full of himself. You don't walk away from $10 to $13 million a year at his age.
To coach football,
Um,
yeah.
to coach football. Saban is in his 70s, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think Saban's got a bigger. I think Saban is eyeing some sort of head of college football position.
Wouldn't shock me.
You know, but no, I don't think Dabo. I don't think Dabo will be quitting anytime soon. I think he says a lot of things that are nice sound bites and makes him seem righteous, but I don't see him going anywhere.
Okay. All right. Well, I was just curious. I saw it, and I know the date was from like something of 2019, but it was a talking point for me because I was like, well, I mean, if I could see anybody just being self righteous enough in his own bullshit to do it, it would be Dabo. But
I mean,
anyways, I
yeah,
you know
yeah.
what I mean? Like he could just take one of his principled stands about something like the transfer portal, like he is, and just decide like, oh, I'm just screw it, I'm done, man. I'm out.
Yeah, I mean, he's got a lot of his buddies on the staff, and that would uproot their families, and who knows what would happen. I mean, I know there's a guy on his staff that coached high school ball where I used to live in Georgia. It was his college roommate at Alabama. I don't know if that guy could get a job anywhere else if it wasn't for Dabo. Um, at the college level, he's a great high school coach. I thought he was an odd fit for college. Like I couldn't see him going into a living room and recruiting kids. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, Dabo's Dabo. He's he's had some success. You can't knock that.
No, he's definitely had success for sure. Okay. Well, the
Hey,
information. Go
real
ahead.
quick. Speaking of NIL, I think all these On3 kids are in Nashville this week, and there's starting to be a lot of social media posts about it. And there's one with Trey McNutt with all his hats, and then the one that I'm talking about here is Jamie French. He came out and said Texas is number one, and he literally named 1, 2, and 3. But it was interesting that he goes, yeah, my dream NIL deal would be with a Lamborghini dealership. So we have officially gone from dream schools to dream NIL packages for these kids. We have reached the
Weird.
the realm of silliness.
Yeah. I caught that and I thought, um, okay. That was kind of I really didn't even know what to say about it. Like, why are we talking about dream NIL deals now? I'm not really sure. But I was trying, and then I was like, well, does Columbus have a Lamborghini dealership? I'm sure they do. It's probably like in New Albany or something. But all right, gosh, football today. Getting too old for this, man. I'm getting in my get off my lawn segment again. All right, so Lindy's Sports comes out with their top 10 and then some of their playoff predictions and who's where. So I don't know. I know you caught it, and I don't know how many of our listeners caught it. So just reading down through this, you've got Georgia at 1, Ohio State at 2, which kind of surprised me. I thought it would be the other way. Um, Texas 3, then Oregon, Ole Miss, Michigan's still in there for some reason. Alabama, Notre Dame, Missouri, giving some credence to Missouri, and Florida State. Besides Oregon, Michigan, and Penn State at number 11 is the only other. Ohio State opponent listed in Lindy's preseason top 25. Food for thought. I don't. What do you think? I mean, that's still three. I mean, that's three top 10, top 11 teams, but
Yeah.
you know, and I think people, and I'm going to go way out on a limb here, way out on a limb. I think people are underestimating a couple of the teams in the Big Ten, Indiana being one of them.
Well, that's not the name I was expecting to come out of your mouth.
Well, it's just because I think Signetti can coach. I think he can get 8 wins.
But I don't. I mean, you're not.
I'm not saying national title contender. No.
Okay.
I'm just saying I think they can win 8 games.
Interesting. I got to look at their schedule, which we'll do here, throughout the course of the summer. So, a couple takeaways from this. Number one, Oklahoma State's not in his preseason top 10. I haven't seen the rest of the top 25.
Yeah.
But, they're not in the preseason top 10 yet. Here they are, the number 4 seed, because of the conference champions getting 4, the 4 buys.
Yes. So we should probably hit that real quick. So first round buys, conference champions, according to Lindy, Georgia, the Buckeyes, Florida State, Oklahoma State. First round buys.
So you got the SEC, Big Ten, ACC, and Big 12 champion, right?
Yep.
So, I would think that the Big 12 champion would be ranked in the top 12 by the time this end of the season rolls around. But, this does create a talking point that, you could have a very subpar conference champion with a bye in the first round.
Yeah. I mean, I will. Can I offer this up to you? Take last year in the Big Ten. Imagine if Iowa beat Michigan with the current format we have. Iowa would have had a first round bye as the Big Ten champ.
Yep. No, there's no regard to record. There's no regard to strength of schedule. There's no regard to anything. They're just getting a first round bye.
Yep.
So, you've got the potential there that a top 12 team is getting left out for a subpar conference champion. Or in your case, a conference champion that, upset somebody in the conference championship game. Right.
Yep.
I mean, we're going to touch on this on Friday, but Will Howard won a conference championship at Kansas State. He wasn't the starter the entire season, which everybody seems to think he was, but they would have been a top 4 seed, and oh, by the way, they got absolutely smoked by Alabama in the Sugar Bowl. So, I mean, those are the kind of things that we're looking at, possibly happening in this playoff. And then at number 12, you've got Liberty, who's the, highest ranked group of 5 conference champion. They're, unless, last year they were the highest ranked conference 5 group of champion, but they're ranked 23rd. At the end of the season. So you've got a somebody outside the top 20 with a guaranteed spot in the playoff.
Yep.
I see a lot of changes coming down the pike.
Well, I was thinking
stuff like
too.
That.
It wasn't that long ago. Was it the COVID season we played Northwestern in the conference championship game, and Northwestern was like, I want to say 7-5 or something like that. So you have
I think they had a better record.
Oh, no. Wait, that would have been the COVID year. So Northwestern record 2020.
They're 8-1 or something silly like that, weren't they?
6-1. Yeah, you're right. 7-2 overall, 6-1. Yeah.
So a couple other takeaways from this top 12. I mean, some interesting teams are missing. You've got Miami's not in there.
No.
You got one ACC team. Miami's not in there. I think Miami with Cam Ward is going to be really good this year. Penn
if he takes care of the football.
Penn State's not in there. They really only have 2 tough games on their schedule. So a 2-loss Penn State team's not in here. Is that because of a number 12 Liberty? Is that because of a subpar conference champion in Oklahoma State.
Yeah.
So it like everybody thinks the controversy is gone. It's not. It's gonna be there. Obviously, I think with the way this shakes out, you have to. There's some assumptions that can be made here, right? We're at number 2, so they've got us winning the Big Ten championship, which means that we likely beat Oregon in the regular season.
You'd have to.
And they've got them at 6 still, which means that there's a rematch in the Big Ten championship, and we beat them again. And then in the semis, they got us playing them again. So they've got us beating Oregon potentially 3 times this year.
Yeah.
Michigan's at 8, which means their only losses are to us and Oregon. Some interesting stuff.
Yeah, I don't know. It's hard. It's so hard in the off season, and I don't. I just have a hard time seeing us play Oregon 3 times. I have a hard time seeing Michigan even sneaking into the top 12. And it's because of teams like you mentioned, like Miami, like Oklahoma and Oklahoma State. Like you start adding up these programs, and you're like, and then you got a group of 5 champ that's coming in, and there's only so many spots. And it's the same with Penn State too. Like if you take Ohio State and Oregon, let's just do this. Florida State, Miami, that's 2. Ohio State, Oregon, that's 4. Bama and Georgia, and I'm going to include Ole Miss. So that's 8. Now you have a couple more spots.
You just left out Texas.
Yeah, I left out Texas. They're in the SEC now. I was trying to do. And then now they're saying, and then you say Oklahoma, Oklahoma State. That's 10. 11 is Liberty.
Oklahoma's not in here.
I know. I'm saying that if Oklahoma were to somehow magically make a run, I don't know, man. Like there's just a lot of, and then we left out USC. So I have a hard time seeing it. So, boy, it's tough, and it's the same thing in the NCAA tournament. There's 64 teams that are included, and there's still people that get mad when, like I was mad when they left the Buckeyes out because the Buckeyes went on a nice run under Jake Diebler.
Yeah. Well, a comment that I've heard a lot of people make, and I think it's very short-sighted, is I've heard so many people say that 3 losses get you into the playoff.
Oh, bullshit.
Like I've heard people say if we dropped 3 games, we'd be in the playoff.
No.
And I don't, I guess you have to assume one of those games is a conference championship, maybe, which means you got to the conference championship after losing 2 games in the regular season, which means that the entire conference had, 2 or 3 losses minimum.
Yeah. We didn't talk about Notre Dame or Washington either in the top 15.
Notre Dame's in here at 10.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, man. There's a lot of teams. There's a lot of crap that can happen there. So no, 3 losses. I don't think you get in with 3 losses. I mean, Ohio State has a nice brand, and I'm all about the brand, but 3 losses, boy, that's.
Well, and the other thing that's really made this interesting this year is that the beginning of the 12-team playoff coincides with both the Big Ten and the SEC going away from divisions.
Yeah.
I mean, some of the schedules in the SEC and in the Big Ten, I mean, some of them are loaded.
Yeah.
Like
Michigan has a terrible schedule. Like they have a lot. They have a hard schedule.
I think Michigan, yes. I think that it was more daunting at the end of last year before Washington lost all their players.
Yes, that's fair.
I think if DeBoer was still there, if Saban hadn't left and DeBoer was still at Washington, then, Washington being on Michigan, that game's not nearly as tough as it, we thought it was, in December.
I'm okay that Saban left, though. Thank you for Julian saying.
Yeah, no, thanks, Nick. But yeah,
Caleb Downs.
It's interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, the controversy is not going to be gone because there's a 12-team playoff.
No, and it's cannon fodder for us. We can have a lot of fun with it and talk about like, hey, what about this? What about that? What about this? So it's I mean, I can't fault where they landed though with the buys. So you got Ohio State with a buy, Florida State with a buy, Georgia with a buy, and who was the other one?
Oklahoma State.
Oklahoma State. I that one, but who in the Big 12, because Texas is in the SEC now. Oklahoma's in the SEC now.
I'll tell you a team to watch for is my
Kansas
alma mater.
State. Oh, Arizona.
They got that quarterback and that receiver, and they went on a run. I think they won their last 9 games last year or something, and they knocked off a bunch of higher higher rated teams in successive weeks. I mean, they kept, despite losing their coach, they kept the vast majority of their roster together. And I think they're going to be a dark horse pick to win the Big 12 this year.
Okay. Did they play Ole Miss last year? I feel like I watched an Arizona and Ole Miss game like really late at night, and they kept it really close. Mississippi State. That's who it was.
And they had a different quarterback playing. He was turnover worthy. They should have won that game on the road. But yeah, that was the back end of a home and home that they had with them the last 2 years.
I enjoyed that game. I had a lot of fun with that.
I'm trying to remember who they beat. They beat somebody. They beat a pretty well-known, I think it was a Big 12 team in the Alamo Bowl. I'm drawing a blank. I can't remember, but it might have been Oklahoma State.
Cool. All right. Well, that's our show for today, folks. Really, in all sincerity, we have a big show Friday. We're coming off a long weekend. We wanted to have some fun with our Delusional Fanbase Series. The Lindy stuff was stuff that Dan and I were just interested in and talking about. So hopefully you guys found that helpful too. But Friday again, we're gonna have Chef on from Cocaine Willie podcast. He's going to be talking about Big Willie, Will Howard. He's going to give us some lowdown. I haven't listened to any of the stuff that he's put out about Will Howard intentionally because I want to be surprised. We all have our own likes and takes on what could be happening in the fall. So we'll see. That's all I can say. I think Dan and I are in agreement. Will Howard did not come here to sit. Divin Brown did not stay to sit. So we have an interesting conundrum just like last year.
It's going to be a long summer.
Oh, yeah. All right. Well, thank you for joining us today. I appreciate you guys. Like and subscribe as you have been. I will say that thank you to the rival fan bases as well that are tuning into our podcast and driving up our numbers like crazy. So thanks for all your, I'm glad you guys, I'm glad we can have fun with this. Let me say it like that. I'm glad we can have fun with it. So thank you guys. Enjoy the rest of your week. We will be putting out shorts as well. So I'm working on those, but not like physical shorts, but shorts on YouTube. But but otherwise, you guys, thanks. Stay safe out there. And as always, go Bucks.
Go Bucks.